Good evening and welcome to Space Oddities. How is everybody? Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm joined on the panel today. We're a bit low on numbers today, but I'm joined by Michael and Roger and Bernard. And Daz was here, but he seems to have disappeared again. How are we all, guys?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, fine. Thank you. Absolutely fine. So before we start, we are very pleased to welcome a new panelist to Space Oddities tonight. We know him from our Astro Radio days, where he did some fantastic radio programs about near-Earth objects. And I'm going to let the man introduce himself to you. So may I introduce as a new Space Oddities panelist, Mr. Jonathan Powell.
Ooh.
How are you?
Good evening, Jonathan.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening. It's absolutely unbelievable. Technical difficulties, but good in the end, guys. No problem at all. Yeah, Jonathan Powell started in the world of astronomy in the early 1980s. Started writing for the local papers there. Escalated that to what was BBC Radio Gwent and BBC Radio Wales. I was with BBC Radio Wales for about 3 years as their astronomy correspondent. Written three books: Cosmic Debris, Rare Astronomical Sights and Sounds, and from space art, from cave art to Hubble. And currently a contributor to the BBC Sky at Night magazine on their Field of View page, and also on a regional paper for the South Wales Argus. Been with them for about 10 plus years or so. So very much looking forward to joining the panel tonight. It didn't look like it was going to happen, but there you go.
Very much a last minute thing.
That's of course Capcom, Michael.
Yes, of course, yes. Thank you, Jonathan.
Jonathan, I was going to say, that's the joys of doing a live show, right? There's anything can happen, and we're always, we always feel the heat on our bum. Anyway, nice to have you here with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Must have had a bit of help from Bruce Willis, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Well, that's the Welsh angle, Die Hard, isn't it? Really?
Oh, well done. Yes.
Yes, Bruce Willis is a bit of an ongoing joke.
Yes.
Here.
Right. Well,
lots of cracks
can you see similarities in me?
He's our mascot. He's our mascot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Of course.
He is. Okay, well, it's fantastic that you're here. On the show tonight, unfortunately, we won't be having a viewers gallery tonight because Rachel has been unable to join us this evening. She's busy doing stuff with the parents of her school children, so unfortunately she's unable to be here. But of course, we will hold your images in stead for next week. And thank you very much for sending them in. I hope you don't mind waiting. But without Rachel, we can't really do much because she knows how to do all that stuff, and we don't. So, so there we are. In the chat, we have Sandra saying, hi, Jonathan. Astro Nebulae says, hi, Jonathan. Remember you from the Astro Radio days. Good to see you here. And Rachel does say, welcome, Jonathan. Wish I was there with you all this evening, but had a very busy work day. She's working and listening into the show. So she's there in spirit, if not virtually. So there we are. We're not sure whether people watching on Facebook are getting their messages through at the moment. We had messages through from the Astronomy Ireland Facebook page. If you are watching us on the Space Oddities Facebook page, perhaps you could try just sending us a message to see whether anything comes through. But the Astronomy Ireland Facebook page looks like it's working fine. Is there anybody there on our Astro Radio page, on our Space Oddities page? If not, of course, you can go over to the Astronomy Ireland Facebook page and watch it there, or you can reach us on YouTube, of course, and that is youtube.com/ at Space Oddities Live is the address on YouTube to find us at the moment. So, have we all had a good week?
Yeah, it's very
horrific.
especially the Three attempted launches of the Terran 1 over the weekend.
Oh, indeed. Yes. Thank you so much for those of you who joined us on Saturday, where we were trying to cover the launch of Terran 1, the world's first 3D printed rocket.
Yeah.
And they had a hell of a day. They started by delaying the launch because of high winds in the stratosphere. And then some idiot in a boat strayed into the exclusion zone. And then what happened then? They got down to half a second before liftoff, and the engines lit. And it was good to see those 5 methane engines lighting for the first time with that lovely blue glow of methane. But half a second before it actually left the ground, it was automatically scrubbed. And then they tried later in the evening when we were not able to be here, and they had a fuel pressurization problem in the second stage.
Yeah.
So they didn't manage to do it. But we still intend to bring you that live coverage of the launch of the world's first 3D printed rocket.
Does that those launch attempts hold the record for the number of attempts in a short space of time?
It could well do, actually.
Yeah.
It could well
I think it does. Yeah, got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be, hasn't it?
You can never happen with a shuttle. I know that.
Yeah. So Relativity Space at least have put themselves on the map with that.
Yeah, that's right.
So there we are. Hello, Daz. Daz is here, and I'm just going to let him back in. Quick vote. Should we let Daz back in?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Daz. Okay, let's let him back in. There he is. Okay.
Hi, Daz.
Andy, before you go any further, I had trouble connecting to YouTube. The page you had up, although we were getting messages through, there was no image. But what it's done, it's come up on Space Oddities Live, the launch of Terran 1. So it's one of our old shows. It's come up on there.
Oh, okay. Right.
So this could be why you're having trouble with Facebook.
Could be. Although I don't see how that would affect Facebook, but never mind. Something's gone wrong there, obviously. Well, we seem to have quite a few people joining us. They found their way here. I think to rectify that problem, we would have to exit and come back in again to let me fix it, because I think I know what the problem might be.
Yeah.
However, but then we'll have to, reload everything. Okay. Anyway, I think we'll just leave it as it is at the moment. Sorry about any inconvenience, viewers. We do have technical issues occasionally, but we hope you've managed to find your way here. And Anne said she had a bit of trouble, but it's okay now.
Yeah, okay.
And okay.
Good to see Sam's come from the US again. I presume that's Jacksonville where he is.
Yes. Okay, City Space Astro, thank you for that. Says this is down as the launch of Terra 1, so it's only got the streams mixed somewhere. There are a few in the other chat. What do you think we should do? Should we exit and come back in again?
Wow, too dear after all the trouble we've had.
Yeah. All right, and Paul Burgart, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Paul, says watching on YouTube all seems to be working. So anyway, let's press on, as they say. So what have we got for you this evening, viewers? Well, we've got the usual features, apart from Rachel's gallery. We've got Roger's bit. Bernard is going to be taking us through his favourite space images of all time. Do you remember we started that series last week with my favourite images? And there's a few other things we've got. Michael's going to be telling us about something that happened quite recently. That is NASA's Juno probe flew by Jupiter's moon Io, and got some lovely images. So we're going to be having a look at those, and Michael's going to be telling us all about that. So why don't we start in time-honoured fashion, and head straight over to the man with his pulse on the finger of the universe, or something like that. Anyway, the night sky. So, Roger, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, it's a bit of a quiet week this week, although I will pick it up a bit with some images from the visit of the Practical Astronomy show, which was at Kettering last Saturday.
Right.
Anyway, enough of that excitement. Let's just get on with the weekly news for the week of the 13th to the 19th. And we're going into third quarter down towards the new moon, which will be beginning sometime next week. So the moon is at the moment quite low and rising and setting out of the way, really. So it's not too much of a problem for astrophotographers, providing they've got the clear skies.
Right.
So we've got, I've got this on a bit earlier on the picture here from 7 p.m. Just to show how Jupiter and Venus are slowly near the horizon again, although they are parting their ways now after that conjunction from a week or so ago.
Yes.
And as we can see, Orion is now heading past the meridian over towards the west, and we've got the galaxy constellations of Leo and Virgo heading over our heads soon. So galaxy season is now starting, really. So that will please a few photographers, although we will be missing lovely Orion, as we all probably do. Right. Anyway, so last Saturday at Kettering in Northamptonshire was the Practical Astronomy Show, and myself and Sandy, who is on the watching panel, came down to see what was going on, and here we are, all excitedly queuing up to go upstairs to see talks and demonstrations and getting hands of lovely equipment. So here we are, lots of different coloured telescopes of various shapes, sizes and prices. Unfortunately, with these photographs here, there seems to be rather a high age profile. So perhaps people who are at retirement or near retirement are feeling that they need to go and buy some more equipment. If you like a red telescope, Ascar are one of the ones to get. They had some rather nice nice bits and pieces. Or if you fancy a Dob, there's some quite nice equipment there. And more red objects from Prima Lucia and ZWO. And there were some stalls which, like Altair, were doing 10% off. So there were some deals to be done, but provided you've got the money and means to be able to buy it, really.
Wow.
Now that's
a monster.
Yes.
That's
a 20-inch Dob.
Are the wheels included with the telescope?
No, they were just demonstrating some of the equipment and on the products that they are producing. This is a fairly new company. They've only been going for a couple of years, and they were demonstrating some types of truck which you can use with different size equipment. They can have either you can have it like that, as you see with the Dob, or you can have it with a mount on, or you can have it with a pillar on, so you can put your own mount on the top. So you can go out fully loaded up with the telescope already to go once you've wheeled it out the shed of the garage.
Yeah, Astro Nebulae says, did you spend your pocket money, Roger?
You'll find out shortly.
That
was my one and only purchase, a Herschel wedge.
Wow.
It's a lunchbox.
It's a
it's a Tupperware.
It's a Tupperware box.
Roger, is it me or red is the color in fashion this year?
Well, red does seem to pop up quite a lot in the show last Saturday. So
yes,
various companies like to promote their products in a certain color, and there are quite a few companies that are sort of having an option where you could have red if you wanted it, like William Optics. Anyway, That's all I can provide for you this evening because I have no new images from the James Webb Space Telescope.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for that, Roger. Somebody told me, Roger, that you yourself have an event coming up. Is this correct? You're doing a talk or something?
I will be doing a presentation from Monmouth Astronomical Society on Friday the 17th of March.
Right. Okay. And where is that?
Monmouth in
Yeah,
Wales.
a little more specific, maybe.
Still at the border from Ross on Y, isn't it? Heading towards Abergavenny on the A465, A40.
Turn left.
You got a postcode,
Beautiful part of the
Um,
beautiful part of the world.
I
Yes,
think it's
it is.
at the college or university. I'm not quite sure.
I remember going
It'll be at
to
the college.
up the river. There's an old lighthouse that I went to a party at there, and the guy wanted to turn it into an observatory, and we swapped details, and he was all excited to get my advice on putting a telescope in there and whatever. Not a big one, I think he was talking about maybe a 10 or 12 inch, not an enormous one. And we swapped details, and he was so enthusiastic, and I never heard a word from him. So I thought, great. So he obviously thought better of the idea once he got over his hangover.
Yeah.
You're right.
But it was a beautiful spot. I mean, that whole area is absolutely delightful. And many years ago, I used to look after the IT for an optician on the high street of Abergavenny. And they were a Welsh Italian family, because there are a lot of Italians in that area who stayed after they were prisoners of war in the Second World War, and they sort of intermingled with the locals. Anyway, that's completely irrelevant. I don't know why I mentioned that, but there we are. So Steve Orbis, hi Steve, how are you doing? He says he's giving a talk to Monmouth AS next month. And he says, shame that you won't overlap, Roger. So Steve, good to have you back. And again, this is something we must sort out for you to get your problem sorted, so that you can come and join us in person. Okay, so Jonathan, something we talked about a little on Facebook was this NASA announcement that there's an asteroid that is going to hit the Earth on Valentine's Day 2046.
Yes.
Tell us something about that.
Not really, no.
Moving on.
As you can see, I've done my homework.
Yeah, but one of the criteria for being a panelist, Jonathan, is that you know what you're talking about.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity, absolutely. So this is an asteroid that's been variously described as.
Yes, I know. Well, look at it this way. I have a week in order to sort that out, and we obviously have plenty of time before the asteroid arrives. So I shall do some significant delving in the interim. But like with most of these, I wouldn't be too fast. It's one of the things that amazes me when I was doing and still are doing with regards to near Earth objects, was the number that continually passes most days that are either spotted very late because of the way in which they approach the Earth sunward. And so when I read whatever comes out, it really is pinch of salt time. It's this one in particular could prove more interesting, but I think we need a lot more information and background data on exactly the projected trajectory for it. So yet again, it's a pinch of salt time, and I'll look into it. But I've always tended to be not overly fussed about the reports that come out. I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen, and we'll get slammed before we know it. So it's one of these things.
Yeah.
But a heads up will be useful, so we can do even less about it. And I think by the time we perhaps get to that point, when it does arrive, maybe we've come up with something to deal with it. But only maybe the last 10, 30 years we've ever got to the point where we can realize exactly how much space traffic we are seeing passing the Earth. It's only because of modern technology we're all picking it up now. It's been going on for centuries. So yeah, look at these things, and digest them. But I wouldn't be overly concerned about it, because when it happens, it'll happen, and it'll be the end of it.
No, absolutely. And I did read a report only today that they think.
That's cheery.
Sorry. Yeah, cheery, yeah.
Well, put it like this. I mean, it'll all be over. I mean, you'll be mulling over your cornflakes, and that'll be nightmare.
Well, I know what I'm getting my missus for Valentine's Day 2046. An asteroid. Go outside and catch it. It's coming now.
Yeah. And we don't even know how many giraffes it measures. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We could buy a job lot of Bruce Willis posters.
Oh, don't start him off.
But interestingly, Jonathan, I was reading that looking at the stats for the last decade, there has been a definite increase in the number of objects that are being reported in the skies. People are reporting more meteors and more fireballs.
Yeah, I mean, the sources that are what we have, the availability of the ability to scan the skies has meant that we are now picking up on so much more. It's the ones that come sunward direct, out of the sun, that they can't. The ones that are really going to cause a difficulty. But it's just because we've got so many more mediums now to catch these sort of things and to spot them. The ones that pass by, they're the ones that worry when they're picked up less than an hour to go or so, or an hour after it's passed. But like I say, even if we address the possibility of a direct impact, I mean, there's been scores of ideas and inventions that have come up with regards to how to deal with it, the actual impact itself. But we are actually miles off any suitable planetary defense system. Really, I think. I mean, it's still very much with regards to science fiction. So we remain open. The Earth remains very open and very vulnerable as it stands at the moment, even if we have years in advance in order to deal with these things, which sort of brings me on to something I've been mulling over for much of the week. It's one of these things when you're perhaps driving in the car and you think to yourself, well, you just sort of think about things to cow's laugh, that sort of thing. And I was thinking, with regards to the Mars mission, this has been my main sort of left of field thought for the week, is that I firmly believe, as it stands at the moment, that we are significantly over egging the ability to reach Mars in the time frame that they believe. Right. I think we're miles off getting anywhere near the sort of objectives that they're laying down. Maybe because of the Apollo missions and the way in which they stood, that they realized that it was more of a race to get there on. But it's more or less unchallenged at the moment, and I don't think, at 2030, 35, I still don't think that's realistic. I think we're looking far beyond that for anything to happen, because ultimately there's no actual rush on to do this. It's a very staged and measured approach, and there's no, like, the impetus of the Apollo missions was to be the first there. That doesn't count anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying, I agree with you, Jonathan, because at the moment, I mean, this is all based on the Artemis program. And of course, they're only talking about launching. It was a launch every year, but now it seems to be every 2 years. So to get anywhere near it, it's going to be it's going to be touch and go if they're thinking that. I was listening to the new budget for next year and how they're going to spend the money, and that was an hour of my life I won't get back. You need to download all the paperwork and flick through it and to be able to guess what they were. And again, a lot of it was Artemis based, and it does seem very strange that I mean, I think one of the biggest restrictions is going to be the cost of these Artemis launches. So anyway, that's a chat for another time. One thing I would like to ask you: does the UK have any sort of protocols for if there is going to be an asteroid hit, No,
I don't think there is. I don't think there's anything in place whatsoever.
Yeah, because
it's all theoretical.
Yeah, because I know the Americans have brought out and they've got 2 or 3 manuals about what's going to happen, and it varies from sort of like something small that's going to make a hole in the garden to kiss your ass goodbye. And it their protocols, they've got it all set out. And I think, well, is it feasible that this could actually, be put into place if you were going to have such a catastrophic strike?
It's more or less like the manuals that are produced with regards to dealing with a nuclear attack and how they were going to deal with that. It's just theoretical based and the best solution scenarios and whatever, but really and truthfully nothing exists or is in place or that I've seen planned for to deal with anything at the moment. And I think what is out there is just based on a general reassurance to people that we are thinking about this.
Exactly.
But
yeah,
won't be doing anything about it.
yeah.
But with regards to the Mars, as far as I can see, I was deeply troubled with Artemis and the trouble they had, and I don't think that gave any reassurance to the way in which they were dealing. You have to start with your best foot forward on this, and the delays and that was really troubling to me. That this was the start of a brand new era, and that they were really struggling to get things going, and the launch windows that went and passed, the technical issues and whatever. I thought, you shouldn't be at this point now. No. You shouldn't be here now. You shouldn't be having to look at it like this and think to yourself, well, we haven't got these things quite right. Things aren't, that's not on. And I think they really need to get the basics right before they even attempt to go anywhere before that. And that in turn pushes back the date or any prospective year for actually going to Mars. I still think it's very much on the back burner for them at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Yes,
sorry, Michael, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, just a quick one on that, on the actual Artemis program. If it's going to be launched every 2 years now, how does that work with a sustainable human presence on the moon?
Well, it doesn't, does it?
No, exactly. That's it. You go from that to 2 years. And if they have a sequence of failures with Artemis 2 or its successors, then you are into that territory. And the journey, it's even contemplating the journey itself, the background and foundations that must be in place aren't there at the moment. And that doesn't exactly build in any credibility or confidence that this is going to go ahead. And the most ridiculous thing that they've done is to announce the crew or talk about the crew that's going to go there. They will be seriously old before they actually leave at this rate. It's not, I cannot see, and it's not to put a dampener on it. It's not to be pessimist. It's more of a realist attitude. When we give them launched years and windows for things to happen, no, it's an idea. It's a framework to work around. It's not an actuality. And I think that they are way in front of where.
But what about SpaceX? Because if the Starship works and they can prove it, I mean, obviously it's got to do an awful lot of orbital flights before it can be human certified. But if they manage to get the Starship working, SpaceX can go to the moon on their own without needing NASA at all. And Elon Musk has said this in the past that he's quite happy to go to the moon and Mars because the Starship is such a great vehicle; it can do both. So,
yeah, again, I'm not overly. I mean, the whole point of the private industry being involved with replacements for the Russian aspect of things, and having to rely on anything from that premise or since the demise of the shuttle. So, and yet again, as you say though, Andy, it's all if that happens and whatever. And I honestly would hate to think that it was down to a private enterprise to do it, even if they could do it. It's almost like it becomes a business proposition, and it sort of takes it out of the science field, if you like, by with that happening. However, if it does go that way, then, and if that appears to be the way to do it, then fair enough. But it just doesn't seem to be. This doesn't seem to be the correct way for me. And it's the same as putting huge mobile telephone masts on the moon and the mining that goes with it and the digging. No, it comes out of a science field then, and that's completely and utterly wrong. It's not
absolutely,
there.
Absolutely. So Astronebulae says, don't they need the Lunar Gateway to be built before any sustained lunar missions?
No,
I don't think they do.
Not necessarily, I don't think.
No.
Well, the lunar gateway is basically to once they've once we've established a base, is so that we can have a constant presence there.
Mm.
And I was listening to again. I was talking about the budget report, and they're talking about the lunar gateway going up just before. I think it was they were starting to build it just before Artemis 3.
Mm.
And or was it 3 or 4? Because Artemis 3 is the test flight for the Starship, and Artemis 4 is actually landing them. But they're going to only just start building the gateway. But unless they get the frequency of the SLS flying, the gateway is going to be redundant for most of the year.
Yeah.
And this is one of the problems. We should hear about this Wednesday from Axiom. Apparently, they've built the new moon suits, which I didn't even know they had done.
Oh yeah.
But they're announcing that on Wednesday. So they're hopefully up and running. I'd like to know what the cost is. But the gateway will not be sufficiently. They could probably use it, but they wouldn't be able to use it for the full facility that they were thinking of.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is if it's going to be used infrequently, is lack of maintenance, and that includes on the moon suits.
Yeah.
These things degrade over time, so it's just one of these things that if they're going to build a gateway, use it. But if it's going to be empty for 9 months of the year, forget it. Don't bother.
Yeah.
It's a bit like
that's my thinking anyway.
It's a bit like a proportion of the M5, really, isn't it? It's if you're not going to use it, cone it off. But I think Chris is right there in the chat about the speed and impetus that will beat NASA to Mars. And maybe I'm being slightly Luddite with the approach that NASA may not have the sort of the presence that they had before, and maybe it is time to acknowledge and step aside that there are people capable of doing this, or enterprises capable of doing this.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't have that dominance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the other thing was as well, Elon Musk has made it his clear intention that his motivation is to give humans an insurance policy on another world in case of asteroid strike on the Earth, or a more lethal pandemic than COVID, or any of the natural disasters that could affect humans. He says that we need an insurance policy if we want our species to survive. We need to go somewhere else. His whole making life multiplanetary, I think it's a noble ambition, because he's absolutely right. Humans could be wiped out tomorrow by a range of things. And it would be a shame if that were the end of us. Having said that, he wants to launch 1,000 starships to Mars to build a Martian city. And you think of 1,000. I mean, I know that they're ramping up the production of the Starship. They're now building one Raptor engine per day, whereas about a year and a half ago it took about 2 or 3 weeks to build the Raptor. So they are ramping up production, and that enormous new star factory is going to be open soon, and they're going to be churning out starships like there's no tomorrow. So who knows? But I think the basic point that we do need to have an insurance policy for humans in case something goes dreadfully wrong on this planet. I think it's a noble motive.
I mean, we've only got one stepping stone in this solar system for us to go to, and that's Mars.
Yeah.
If the ultimate goal of moving out into space is to protect the survival of the human race, because we know what's going to happen a billion years down the line. And we've only got Mars, maybe asteroids, some of the bigger asteroids, but beyond that, we have to go beyond the solar system once the sun starts to die.
If you ask NASA why they're going to Mars, you won't get a clear, well-defined answer. They'll just say, well, we're going to Mars because we're going to Mars. They say it's for science, but you would do much better having a fleet of many robots on Mars than humans, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and ultimately they can cover more of Mars than humans will be able to. So I don't know. Anyway, Bernard, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So your concern and caution with regards to the overall long-term objective of NASA to go back to Mars, it's valid. It's been valid for a long time, and organizations such as the Planetary Society have made. Sorry, I'm hearing something sneeze.
Yeah, who's sneezing? Not me.
Yeah, the Planetary Society have made recommendations, whereas it's just too complicated to send a human on Mars at the moment, and therefore the best thing to do would be to send maybe humans into a space station, like a lunar gateway, into orbits around Mars, and then have robots on the surface, and they could teleoperate those.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned about this strange noise in my
Yeah, I can hear it as well.
Can you hear
I
it
can
as
hear it
well?
as well. I've got no idea where that's coming from. Apologies, viewers. We seem to have sort of
we are running into a lot of technical issues
somewhere
today.
It's all Jonathan's fault. I blame Jonathan absolutely for this.
May as well. I was blamed for my recycling being everywhere this morning. So
maybe this is a conversation we can take up another week, because that's that opens a whole can. I'm actually not in
it
favor
does.
of humans going to Mars.
That will be a good conversation for another
I'd
day.
like to steer us back to initially the asteroid conversation. I'd just like to remind our viewers that European Space Agency set up in 2006 their Space Situational Awareness Program, which includes trying to detect asteroids, but also has plans to protocols, or try to initiate protocols of what would happen if if an asteroid strike would take place. So that's something that has been funded for over a decade and still has extensive funding. So I just wanted to. You can check it out on European Space Agency, Space Situational Awareness Program (SSA). And I'm going to stop now because I don't know why there's this strange noise, and it's definitely not coming from me, guys.
You sure you're not miming that, Bernard? Bernard the ventriloquist. No, so apologies, viewers. We seem to have some strange noise in the background, and we have no idea where it's coming from. So please bear with us. We are trying to find out what that's all about. However, moving on, we would like to say thank you to all our subscribers, because at the weekend we passed the magical 500 subscriber level, and that's a fantastic achievement from my fellow Space Oddities panelists. So well done to everybody for all your hard work. We've got to 500 subscribers. It doesn't sound a lot, but we're moving in the right direction. Nobody so far has unsubscribed anyway. So we are moving in the right direction. So we're a bit of a celebration because Space Oddities has reached 500 subscribers. And thank you to all of our subscribers for subscribing, basically. And if you're watching us tonight and you haven't subscribed to our channel, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video, and perhaps after the show, leave a few remarks in the comments if you like what we do. The thing is about YouTube comments that they don't count comments in the chat, in the live chat. They don't even look at those, so they don't help us at all. So after the show, if you could just leave a couple of comments in the video when it's processed, which will be sometime tomorrow morning, I guess. That would be much appreciated. Every bit helps to get us to where we want to go, to bring you more and better things. And talking of which, thank you again to everybody who has bought us a coffee over the last couple of weeks. And we do appreciate your coffee. We love your coffee. You do buy us some excellent coffee. And so in case anybody wants to buy us a coffee this week, you've got the QR code that you can scan. And thank you so much for anybody who does buy us a coffee. We do appreciate it because it helps us to keep the show on the road. So there we are. I'll just leave that up there for a little while longer. So Terran 1 notwithstanding, it's been quite an interesting week for space news. So I think what we will do now is we will go over to the news. Just give me 1 second to set this up, and we will have a look at what's been in the news this week. So, what has been in the news this week? Well, firstly, we had a return of the Crew 5 astronauts from the International Space Station, and they splashed down quite safely. You'll be glad to know. And just give me 1 second. I'll just maximize this so you can see it a bit better. There we are. And the Crew 5 astronauts returned to the Earth, and it was a lovely evening for it. There's a lovely photo there that I particularly liked about the showing the Crew Dragon with the moon in the background. I think that's a beautiful photo. And the 4 astronauts splashed down late Saturday on March the 11th, wrapping up a 5-month mission to the International Space Station. And the astronauts who returned were NASA astronauts Josh Quesada and Nicole Mann, Japan's Koichi Wakata, and cosmonaut Anna Kikina of Russia, who splashed down in darkness after streaking over the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Tampa Bay. And Mr. Mann, or Miss Mann, Nicole Mann said, "Thank you, SpaceX. That was one heck of a ride, and we're happy to be home." I'm sure they are. They've been up there for 5 months, and this is something you hear that the astronauts say about the SpaceX Dragon, that it's an absolute joy to fly as a spacecraft compared to the old ones, and Apollo and Gemini and all of those. So welcome home, guys. ULA have rolled out their new rocket, the Vulcan Centaur, which you see there. They took it to the launch pad to do fuel and pressure testing, and they are targeting no earlier than May the 4th for its first debut launch. And we wish them well, because it looks like it's going to be a fantastic vehicle. And I love the color scheme as well. I think that's really cool.
It's better again.
Yeah, absolutely. So well done, ULA. We get to see the first Vulcan, and it's going to be a really versatile spacecraft with lots of different configurations, different cargo capacities, different boosters, different solid fuel rockets. It's going to be wonderful. And notice that this rocket actually exists, because some companies have rockets who keep saying they have rockets and we've never seen them. Yes, I'm looking at you, Blue Origin. So the ULA Vulcan, there you are. There's the evidence. It actually does exist. So we wish ULA the very best of luck with the Vulcan. ULA, of course, it was announced recently, are up for sale, which is a bit of a shame. And we'll have more on that story when we get some more information about who's actually going to bid for it. Now, this is something that surprised me, living in Spain, that there's a private company who are going to launch their maiden rocket, designated a micro rocket, from Spain. And it's a first for Spain, and it looks like Spain may actually beat the UK into space. As you know, the first British space launch, attempted British space launch by Virgin, failed, and because of a dodgy fuel filter. So it looks like Spain may be the first European country to launch off their own soil into orbit. The rocket is called the MIU RA1. It's a suborbital launcher, actually. It's going to carry up up to 4 missions a year and possibly take cargo as well. And Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says, "Your dream is shared by all of Spanish society, because we are led by a common goal to put Spain at the forefront of this space transport industry, which is not only emerging but also powerful." So a bit galling for Britain that the Spanish might in the end get there before them. However, as it says, launch pads are springing up across Europe as the small rocket market takes off, no pun intended, after decades of institutional dominance by national space agencies. And Spain, Britain, Portugal, Germany, and Iceland are all running projects now to put satellites into orbit. So this is good news for Spain, obviously. Now, the James Webb Space Telescope, the people who run the mission, that's the Space Telescope Science Institute, have released these images from what's called the General Observer Program. And the images show different types of galaxies. We've got spiral galaxies, we've got gravitational lensing, as you can see there in a few places, and evidence of galaxy mergers. And this is part of the Cosmos Webb program. and it aims to map the earliest structures of the universe and will create a wide and deep survey of up to 1 million galaxies. Over the course of 255 hours of observing time, Cosmos Web will map 0.6 square degrees of the sky with NearCam, roughly the size of 3 full moons, and 0.2 square degrees with MIRI. It's incredibly exciting to get the first data from the telescope for Cosmos Web, said Principal Investigator Jehan Carter-Tepe, I guess. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that correctly. An Associate Professor at Rochester Institute of Technology School of Physics and Astronomy. Everything worked beautifully and the data are even better than we expected. We've been working really hard to produce science quality images to use for our analysis, and this is just a drop in the bucket of what's to come. And of course, that is a common theme across all of web science and the institutions that are the academic institutions that are running web science, because, you know, web has probably got perhaps 20 years of life in it. It's only really been delivering science for a few months, and you know, it's already it's confounding several well-held and cherished theories about galaxy formation in particular. So there's some lovely images there from the web Cosmos Web program. Scientists have called for a global push to eliminate space junk. They've called for a legally binding treaty to ensure Earth's orbit isn't irreparably harmed by the future expansion of the global space industry. In the week that nearly 200 countries agreed to a treaty to protect the high seas after a 20-year process, experts believe society needs to take the lessons learned from one part of our planet to another. The number of satellites in orbit is expected to increase from 9,000 today to over 60,000 by 2030, which is only 7 years away, with estimates suggesting there are already more than 100 trillion untracked pieces of old satellites circling the planets. While such technology is used to provide a huge range of social and environmental benefits, there are fears the predicted growth of the industry could make large parts of Earth's orbit unusable. An international collaboration of experts in fields including satellite technology and ocean plastic pollution say this demonstrates the urgent need for global consensus on how best to govern Earth's orbit. They acknowledge that a number of industries and countries are starting to focus on satellite sustainability, but say this should be enforced to include any nation with plans to use Earth's orbit. And I think we would all agree that should indeed be a priority.
Isn't that why we should go to Mars?
But very probably. Very probably.
Well, I did see. Sorry, you were saying about that. I did see there is actually a plan to set up a constellation around Mars already. I read somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
A constellation up there. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
No, don't worry. Researchers have captured the early stages of star formation from the James Webb Telescope. Speaking of the James Webb, a team of researchers has been able to see inside faraway spiral galaxies for the first time to study how they formed and how they change over time, thanks to the powerful capabilities of the James Webb Telescope. We're studying 19 of our closest analogues to our own galaxy. In our own galaxy, we can't make a lot of these discoveries because we're stuck inside it, says Eric Wasilowski, professor in the Department of Physics and co-author on a recent paper analysing data from the James Webb Space Telescope. Unlike previous observation tools, the telescope's mid-infrarange instrument MIRI can penetrate dust and gas clouds to provide critical information about how stars are forming in these galaxies and consequently how they are evolving. This is light that is longer wavelength and represents cooler objects than the light we see with our eyes, he said. The infrared light is really key to tracing the cold and distant universe. So far, the telescope has captured data from 15 of the 19 galaxies. Rosolowski and Hamid Hassani, a PhD student and lead author on the paper, examined the infrared light emitted from dust grains at different wavelengths to help categorize what they were seeing, such as whether an image showcased regular stars, massive star-forming complexes, or background galaxies. So again, superb science coming out of the Webb telescope. And here's an interesting theory. The universe may have started with a dark Big Bang. To be more exact, it may have started with two Big Bangs. One of them light, one of them dark. How so? Well, the Big Bang may not have been alone. The appearance of all the particles and radiation in the universe may have been joined by another Big Bang that flooded our universe with dark matter particles, and we may be able to detect it. In the standard cosmological picture, the early universe was a very exotic place. Perhaps the most momentous thing to happen in our cosmos was the event of inflation, which at very early times after the Big Bang, I think if I remember rightly, it's 10 to the minus 32 seconds after the Big Bang, sent our universe into a period of extremely rapid expansion. When inflation ended, the exotic quantum fields that drove that event decayed, transforming themselves into the flood of particles and radiation that remain today. When our universe was less than 20 minutes old, those particles began to assemble themselves into the first protons and neutrons during what we call Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Big Bang nucleosynthesis is a pillar of modern cosmology, as the calculations behind it accurately predict the amount of hydrogen and helium in the cosmos. But a team of researchers have proposed a new idea. They argue that our inflation and Big Bang nucleosynthesis eras were not alone. Dark matter may have evolved along a completely separate trajectory. In this scenario, when inflation ended, it still flooded the universe with particles and radiation, but not dark matter. Instead, there was some quantum field remaining that did not decay away. As the universe expanded and cooled, that extra quantum field did eventually transform itself, triggering the formation of dark matter. This approach also opens up avenues to explore a rich variety of theoretical models of dark matter, because now that it has a separate evolutionary track, it's easier to keep track of in the calculations to see how it might compare to observations. For example, the team behind the paper were able to determine that if there was a so-called dark Big Bang, it had to happen when our universe was less than 1 month old. So there we are. So that's the news for this week, guys.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You were talking about Andy. You were talking about the splashdown. Has someone got a speaker on?
Daz, we're losing you. Can't hear you.
Hang on, I'm going to turn Daz up a bit, as it were. Okay, you're.
All I can hear is some feedback or something going on.
Yeah, we do have problems.
We have got some technical problems tonight. Apologies, viewers. We have no idea where those sounds are coming from. Obviously, not coming from any of us, and there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately.
No one's got another browser open with a video on the screen.
I haven't.
Oh.
No.
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 I blame Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. I think
Eric said you must be on a party line.
God, do you remember the old party line?
Who is this? Is that you?
Yeah. No, it's still going away softly in the background. Anyway, let's move on. The idea that there could have been two Big Bangs, one of which was later than the other and delivered dark matter into the universe, that's an intriguing idea. And we may be able to detect it because it would have left a particular gravitational wave imprint on the universe, it's thought. And we can't do it at the moment because we can't detect gravitational waves of ultra low wavelength, the sort of thing you get from merging galaxies and colliding supermassive black holes. But in the future, especially with the ESA's LISA gravitational wave detector that is going to go to Lagrange point 2 in 2034, it may be possible to actually detect that relic from this alleged second Big Bang, which is really interesting. Okay, now moving on, Michael.
Could I ask you to put Bernard on before me?
Of course, absolutely. Of course, Bernard. Then. Now, last week we started a series where the panelists are going to show you their favourite 3 images and explain why they chose them. And I did mine last week, and I really can't wait to see what Bernard has got to offer. So, Bernard, perhaps you can talk us through your favourite images.
Absolutely. And thanks, Andy. And viewers, we are having technical issues because I could not upload my presentation as I normally do due to the problem with the Restream. So Andy kindly uploaded it for me. So I will have to ask Andy to.
Yeah, just tell me when you want to move on. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So, before I actually presented you my images, I just wanted to remind, I was going to do a shameless plug of my latest book, which is Imaging Our Solar System. Basically, I go through the evolution of all the space mission cameras and optical instruments that have been used throughout the space exploration. And I was very grateful to be able to do this for Springer Publishing because I was able to review hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of images from over 100 space missions, starting from the 1950s, and it was just great to be able to see the variety of all the images that have been taken so far. And I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen quite a lot, and I was able to select and cherry pick the ones I liked the most. And if you are more interested, Andy, if you could just go to the next slide, please.
Yes.
Thank you. If you're anyone who's interested in more of my work, I have a website, and I'm shamelessly showing it here, called bernardhennin.co.uk or .com. So if you go on the website, it's called Notes for Callisto. And Andy, if you can move to the next slide. And then I have articles where I publish various articles. And I also, Andy, if you could go to the next slide. I also have I do monthly articles where I write a piece on any given topic throughout a month, and it's published on the first day of the month. So if you are interested, please go on the website and subscribe. Next slide, please. I also currently write sci-fi stories, and I publish some of them on the website. Next slide.
And very good they are too, if I might say.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, if you are interested and if you do love sci-fi, please go ahead. It's hard sci-fi generally. So yeah, I'm still in my early stages in relation to this. I haven't been published by magazines yet, and so forth. But that is just, I would hope, just a trivial matter for me. Who knows? Next slide. Yep. So, folks, if you are interested, bernardhennin.co.uk is where you can find me. Now, let's go to the images.
Well, just before that, can I just say that both of Bernard's books have been absolutely fantastic. The first one about the ocean worlds of the solar system, and the new one about imaging the solar system, highly recommended, viewers. And I'm not just saying that because Bernard's sitting here. I'm saying that because I did genuinely found them really, really lovely reads and really informative, and lots of fantastic information that I never knew. So thank you, Bernard, for writing those, because I had enjoyed them so much. There we are.
Oh no, thank you so much, Andy. They have good reviews, and the publisher liked them so much they're asking me to write some more books for them. So,
and they're available at Amazon, yes.
Absolutely available in every good bookseller, even your local bookseller, if you actually go to them. And obviously they won't have it in catalog, but they will be able to order it from them. So,
great.
So,
all right then.
Yeah.
So moving on to your three images, do you want to move on to the first one?
Yes. So basically, we had to choose three images, and of course, this is such a punishing exercise. So I chose four. So quickly going on, I wanted to show you this one. This is probably, I think, the most amazing image in space exploration. Because it really touches on four key aspects. The first one, of course, is the technological aspect. In order for us to image Pluto, New Horizons had to be sent, for over 10 years into deep space, and the technological challenge that was involved in making this picture is just absolutely amazing. I go into it in detail in my book, but we all know what a great mission that was. So from a technological point of view, this was phenomenal, but also from a cultural point of view, for so long we've been wanting to have an image of Pluto. It was sort of this last planet, or non-planet dwarf planet that was waiting to be imaged, and finally in 2015, after over 100 years of knowing this planetary body, we finally got this image. So from a cultural point of view, this was a huge thing in everyone's understanding of Pluto and the global culture.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing about it is that this is an actual inverted commas natural color image of Pluto, because JPL did produce this image that was color coded for the different types of terrain that exist on Pluto. And you see that popping up in Facebook all the time. It's all garish colors. And of course, typical Facebook reaction from people, oh, that proves that it's not real, it's all fake because no planet has those colors. And you think, oh dear. So this is actually Pluto in the colors that you might see it if you were there.
Indeed, and Pluto's surface is so varied. It's one of the most contrastive bodies in the solar system.
Indeed.
It has as much contrast as, I don't know if you know, Iapetus, one of Saturn's moon. The color variation of Pluto is just phenomenal.
It is.
And that's one of the third points I wanted to mention, is that no one really knew what we were going to see on Pluto, but no one ever dreamed that we were going to see such an amazing variety in terms of geological surfaces.
And of course, we've only seen one hemisphere of it.
Yes. Well, we've seen the other side, but not with high resolution as we've seen this one with, the heart-shaped Sputnik Planitia. This massive sort of lake of nitrogen and ice and methane. It's just, from a scientific point of view, from a planetary science point of view, Pluto is like the jewel on the crown. Is an amazing object.
Absolutely.
And finally, the fourth point is from a visual point of view. It's such a stunning image, but also just such a stunning object to look at. It has hearts. You see mountains of ice. It's like on every layer, on every point, it's just a spectacle for the eye. And so for me, these four key areas, from a technological point of view, cultural point of view, science point of view, but also visual and arts point of view, I think this is probably the most amazing image in space exploration.
And of course, I think they've fairly well established now that there are cryovolcanoes on Pluto as well.
Oh yes, and most likely a subsurface ocean.
And a subsurface ocean. So Pluto is the little world that keeps on giving, really, isn't it?
It's fascinating, amazing. There are proposals for us to go back to Pluto. So yeah, maybe one day, these missions take a very long time to go to Pluto, but who knows? Maybe one day in our lifetime, we'll have an orbiter around the Pluto.
That would be
system.
great. Okay, next image.
Next one, please. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly sneak in this one. My views on the Chinese government I have some views on the Chinese government. I lived in Hong Kong, and I don't live in Hong Kong, and there is a reason for that. But I was unbelievably impressed with this image. This, of course, is their Zhurong rover, which landed in 2021 with Perseverance on Mars. And this image is such a good image in terms of, I wouldn't call it propaganda, but I would call it just, showing to the world that, you're there, and it's. I love the fact that they had this sort of camera that they just dropped on the floor and then wheeled back just in order to take this image. I think it's a beautiful image.
I was actually going to ask who what took that image, but now we know.
Yeah, it's a drop camera, and I wish NASA, I wish JPL had that idea, because while the photos of Perseverance and Curiosity are beautiful or great, I don't think they have the same level of visual quality than this one. So,
no, that's a beautiful image. Yes, I see why you chose that one. It's lovely.
Yeah, and it's an inspiring image. And guys, unfortunately, it's a shape of things to come, because the Chinese space program is incredibly well developed, and it has a clear long-term focus, which we might not be able to say.
Not to mention well funded, of course.
And of course, it's all soft power, and we all know where it's coming from. But they're there, and they're doing amazing science, and they're working hard.
Well, but are they? I mean, this is the question, because I was reading about this recently, that nothing has been heard of the Zhurong rover for a few months. And NASA have taken photographs from orbit of the Zhurong rover, and it hasn't moved in 2 months. So they're saying that this could mean that it's dead.
So who knows? Yes,
who knows? But it hasn't moved in 2 months, which would indicate it stopped being a rover and more a stationary science outpost, like was it Curiosity? Not Curiosity, Spirit was.
Yes, yes. Isn't it interesting that we live in a time where America is spying on Chinese assets on another planet?
That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, next one.
Yes, next one.
Okay.
I could not include this picture in some of the most
Yes.
amazing pictures
Yes,
ever,
that's
because
amazing.
this is the first exoplanet ever imaged. 2M1207b is a Jupiter class planet in this around the brown dwarf that's 170 light years away. This image was taken by the VLT, that's from the European Southern Observatory, in 2004, and it was the first ever image of an exoplanet. And this image is just amazing because it just opens the door to a whole new world and a whole new science. So I could not have this image in here.
No, indeed. And that is a beautiful image. And it's funny, there was a news story going around Facebook that the James Webb had taken the first ever direct image of an exoplanet. And it's totally wrong, of course, because this was the first ever direct image of an exoplanet.
Yes.
And just imagine that. I mean, astronomers even, 30 years ago would have thought this impossible, that we could actually take a photo of a planet orbiting another star. It's quite mind-blowing when you think about it.
Oh, it is. And yeah, of course, since then we've had many other images of what I find the most extraordinary, or not extraordinary, the most surprising, that it's already been almost 20 years since this image has been taken.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, the field of exoplanet has been incredibly, transformative, but also it's been, over 20 years we've had images of exoplanets. Anyways, I like to remind myself of that.
Okay. And your final image?
Yes. Look, this is Hubble's first deep field image, 1995. I remember when this was published.
Me too.
It took days and days to make this image, but it was the first time that Hubble just blew my mind, because I remember, I was just looking at this image and I just could not comprehend the scale and scope of this image in terms of, the depth and all these galaxies. And of course, since then we've had much better deep field images from Hubble, such as the extra deep field, and as well, of course, JWST. But this is where it all started, and this is where your mind can wander for hours, and you're like,
and virtually every single point of light in that image is a galaxy.
Yes. And this is where, all your sci-fi fantasies take place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Well, Bernard, thank you so much for sharing those with us. If you've got any comments, viewers, about those images, put them in the chat. And obviously, if you can tell us about some of your favorite images, we'd love to hear you writing about those in the chat. Or, of course, if you want to send us one of your favorite images, email us at spaceodditieslive@gmail.com. We'd love to, if you just limit yourself to one image that is your favorite space image of all time and tell us why, send it to us and we'll feature it on the show. So spaceodditieslive@gmail.com is the email address there. So thank you very much, Bernard. That was absolutely fantastic.
No,
Michael, coming to you. Hello. Now, we had a bit of an event recently. The NASA's Juno probe, which has previously flown past Ganymede as part of its extended mission, recently flew past Jupiter's moon Io. So perhaps you'd like to tell us about that.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, just the latest from Juno, as Andy said. Basically, this is a spacecraft that's been in orbit around Jupiter for the last 5 or 6 years or so. And one interesting fact about the Juno itself, this is a nice impression of the spacecraft. It's a spin-stabilized spacecraft with 3 very large solar panels. And the interesting fact is, I believe this is the farthest spacecraft in the solar system that has solar panels as the power source. So well done for Juno on that one. Juno itself was launched back in 2011, the month after the last flight of the space shuttle. Did a Earth flyby in 2013 and didn't actually get to Jupiter until 2016. So it's been in orbit around Jupiter since 2016. Now, the main objective of Juno was Jupiter itself. It was to understand the origin and the evolution of Jupiter, look for a solid planetary core, magnetic fields, and so forth, and detailed observations of the atmosphere. But due to the highly elliptical orbit of Juno, we've seen some fantastic images of the nearest moons, the Galilean moons, recently, as a bonus, if you like. But just to remind you, the next picture here is one of the best pictures of Jupiter I've seen for a long time. And just a note on the processing of these images that are coming up now. There was no budget in the Juno mission, program for any professional processing of images. All the images I'm going to show you now, in fact, virtually all of the images that come from Juno are actually produced by people like ourselves on a home computer, doing citizen science and uploading their own images to the Juno website. So virtually all of these pictures are, if you like, home processed. And I just think it's amazing the detail that come out of things like that.
Yeah, there's a gentleman called Kevin Gill who I look at on Flickr, and his processing of planetary images is just absolutely stunning. Yeah. So if you've got Flickr, go and have a look at Kevin Gill, Gill.
Yeah.
His images are amazing. He's a very clever guy.
Yeah, and I would say that this apparently, according to the caption for this image, it's an artist impression, so it's what the artist thinks it's like, and not representative of true color, but it's just a fantastic image though, showing all the detail of the clouds there. So.
Because until Juno got to Jupiter, we'd had the standard image of Jupiter with the northern southern equatorial bands, and not much detail apart from the red spot and a few storms we could see. But the richness of detail in Jupiter's atmosphere is just stunning.
Yeah. Okay. So this is on the image on the left is an approximately true color stroke contrast version of the image of the image. Basically, and this, what I say is this is orbit, perigove orbit 49 of Jupiter. So 49 orbits Juno has made since 2016. And so it's a highly elliptical orbit, so it does take quite a while for the spacecraft to get around Jupiter. And the item in question, Io itself, we all remember the pictures of Io from the Voyager, looking like a pizza. This is some
and it still does.
Yeah, it still does. Not as red in these images. Again, not quite sure of the actual colours. But this one was produced by Andrew Brown, and these images were taken by Juno on the 1st of March, so only just over a week ago. So really interesting detail on there. Okay, and another one. This one, another one. Bjorn Jonsson again processed these images. The images on the bottom were actually Voyager images. Earlier from Voyager and Galileo, so they can put the actual latitude and longitude lines on there and match it up with the images at the top.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's brilliant, really.
I must admit, I was a little disappointed that Juno didn't get closer to
Yeah.
on this flyby, but it's got another 2 flybys of IO coming up, I think.
Okay, right. Yeah.
If I remember rightly, don't quote me on that, but I think it's got another 2 flybys of IO coming up. So perhaps it'll get closer next time.
Yeah,
but even so, they're brilliant images, aren't they?
They did say that the moon's moon flybys are basically a secondary byproduct of the actual orbit that Juno is on.
Yeah.
It's not actually the main object for it was Jupiter itself, of course.
Yeah, and you've got to remember, in case anybody out there isn't familiar with this, you are looking at the place where active volcanoes beyond the Earth were first discovered. And the data was taken by Voyager, but it was a junior navigation engineer by the name of Linda Morabito at NASA who actually enhanced one of the images for some navigation work she was doing for the spacecraft. And this sort of plume arose from the surface of Io. It was crescent shape, and it looked like there could be a moon beyond Io that she was seeing over the limb of Io. And she checked, and there was nothing there. And it turned out this was a volcanic plume, and what a thing to have on your CV. I discovered the first active volcano beyond the Earth. I mean, you can't top that, really, can you?
And of course, somebody said that's no moon.
Yeah, that's right. That's no moon. So there we are.
So just want to point people to the website of the Juno Cam. If you are interested in processing images from Juno, it's all free. All of the images are fully downloadable. They want the public to actually process the images and upload them to the website. And the actual website is missionjuno.swri.edu/JunoCam. So please go to there. If you know about photo processing and you want to do your bit for some fantastic images like that, please do.
Absolutely.
Just before I go, I'd just like to plug a magazine called Capcom. I've been the editor and producer of Capcom for the last 30 odd years, and this is the latest issue. Capcom is published 6 times a year, and is available as a printed or a PDF version. And if it contains original articles from a variety of authors, 3 of the authors of which are on the panel tonight. So
and then there's the lead article that you see on the cover there about the square kilometre array, written by an absolutely brilliant writer who I thoroughly recommend.
Okay.
So there we are. That's fantastic.
So anyone interested in that, go to gospacewatch.earth/Capcom.
Yeah. So, and this is a brilliant magazine, and Michael, as he said, has been creating and editing this for 30 years. So he knows what he's doing now.
Fantastic. How fantastic.
So, thanks very much. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. That's absolutely wonderful. So there we are.
Can I just add in relation to Juno? Let's not forget that all these images are done by a repurposed camera that was initially made for the descent of Curiosity and was supposed to take pictures as Curiosity was descending our surface in order to navigate. And it's just amazing that they've managed to repurpose the spare camera and remake it for a Jupiter imaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that just about brings us to the end of today's show. And we would like to thank Jonathan for being here his first time. I hope it wasn't too traumatic for you, Jonathan.
Not at all.
You are welcome to be here every week if you would so like. You can come and go.
No problem at all. We'll look forward to it.
You've got the links now, so just join. And we've established that your camera and mic work okay now. So there we are.
Brilliant.
So thank you for being here, and we do appreciate it. And and I'm glad that we got you in at the literally very last moment after you'd solved your technical issues. So that's great. Daz is sitting with his finger up. I think that means he wants to say something, but you never know with Daz. It could have another meaning
Yeah, I just want to thank Rubber Valley Optics, our sponsors,
Oh yes.
and also we were when we were talking about our favourite photographs, images. We have got one already from a viewer, Graham Turvey. We will be in touch soon, and we'll sort that out for you.
Oh great.
So don't worry, but we will.
Graham. We will have a look. We'll sort something out. Absolutely perfectly. We do apologise for the technical issues we've had this evening. It does sound like a cross line in the background, but of course it can't be because we're all digital now, baby. So it's definitely not a cross line. So we don't know where this extraneous background noise is coming from. We will we'll hope we don't get it next week. Obviously, we will be back next Monday as always at 8 p.m. UK time. Be quiet, cat. And also, if the Terran 1 from Relativity Space launches before then, I think Daz, you said they're set it for the 16th, which is in 3 days' time.
Into the 16th.
Yeah.
We've got no time at the moment. 16th.
Right, 16th. It's so a third launch attempt, or the third day of launch attempts, I should say, for Terran 1 is going to be on Thursday. We don't know the time yet. But we will, if you keep an eye on our Facebook page, we will inform you there as soon as we have further information. Just a last chance, if you would like to buy us a coffee. Jonathan hasn't sampled any of your coffee yet, so I think you might like to take this opportunity to buy at least Jonathan a coffee, if you want to, of course. And we do appreciate every coffee that you buy. So just a last chance to do that this evening. Scan the QR code, and Jonathan gets a coffee. Do you like coffee, though, Jonathan? Are you a coffee drinker?
Wow. Anything, basically. Turps, anything.
You didn't tell us, where exactly are you located?
It's a small valleys town. It's both at Evervale, Gwent. My hometown is Abergavenny, which is why I know about where you were. And
Right.
Evervale. And right on the top of the mountain, which meant that because the snow fell last week, the recycling people neglected to pick recycling, and I spent most of the recycling from neighbours' gardens. I could have said it wasn't me, but it had my name and address on one of it. So,
oh dear.
Can I just ask Jonathan a quick question?
Yeah,
Jonathan, I just wondered if you liaise with the Space Guard Centre about near-Earth objects.
Yeah, I was actually before they actually resited to Knighton. I was in on the original project. It was at Trellick, and
Right.
they actually moved it from there. And it was about a decade or so ago. But I have been meaning to pop up to see how developments have been there. But we got snowed out recently.
Yeah, that's right.
But yes, Space Guard really are at the forefront of the near Earth objects and the detection of. So it's a big credit to Wales that we have got that stationed here in the UK in general. But it's they do organise tours there as well, which I know a few societies have been to in the local area. So well worth a visit there. And some great work
I've been there a couple of times.
I was just wondering, Michael, wouldn't it be great if somebody came up with the ultimate, it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, with the ultimate A to Z of astronauts? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
All you need to do, folks, is subscribe to Capcom.
There you are. Well, back in the very distant past, during the Apollo era, I actually wrote to NASA. I think I must have been about 11 or 12, and just asked them to send me some stuff. And they sent me this huge envelope. And one of them was a book of all of the biographies of the current astronauts. And it was really, and I've still got it, of course, because I never throw these things away.
Yeah.
And I think it was 25 or something astronauts, the biographies of all of them, and they sent me wall charts, they sent me photos, and you know, NASA are great like that, all for nothing, of course. You don't have to pay for it, and they still do it. You know, NASA outreach is absolutely fab.
Yeah.
So they do a great job, and it's a bit of a shame that Donald Trump wanted to cancel them, and because he wanted to cancel all of NASA education. And luckily he didn't get away with it. So there we are. Daz, did you want to say something else?
No, it's all right. I was messing about.
Okay, right, okay. All right then. So, viewers, thank you for being here. Thank you for the coffees. We've had some coffees this evening, so thank you so much for that. As always, much appreciated. Thank you all for subscribing, enabling us to reach the 500 subscriber mark. And we actually had an email from YouTube this morning congratulating us on reaching the 500, automatically generated, of course, but the thought was there. Yeah. And we now go on to our 1,000th subscriber. That's our next target, and we hope that if you haven't subscribed, you'll consider doing so. It's totally free. Just hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification icon so that you get informed when we're doing things. We hope to see you on Thursday for the launch of Terran 1. If it's at a convenient time, if it's in the middle of the night, I don't think you'll be seeing us. Or if it's during work hours, you might not see us either. But we'll have to play that one by ear. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. Thank you to Rother Valley Optics for sponsoring us. Thank you to Facebook Ireland, for Astronomy Ireland for letting us invade their Facebook page with our live stream. Much appreciated, guys. Hope to be over in Ireland soon. And we will see you 8 o'clock next week UK time. So from all of us here on the panel, thank you so much for being here. And we'll have more, hopefully, interesting stuff for you next week. So have a great week, everybody. Say goodbye, panel.
Goodbye, panel.
Goodbye, panel.
Goodbye,
And,
panel.
and we will see you very soon. Take care of yourselves, and thanks for